everyone. This is A and Adam again with After Dark. Today, our episode is going to be about the Year of Fiire. I'm sorry if I'm already jumping into it. I'm so excited. Today, we have Jimmy Ricketts here with us, and we're going to be going over some more details about the plot, both from an ST perspective, from Adam's perspective, and a player's perspective, from Jimmy's perspective. To get more into it, especially for newer players, one of the most recent plots within the Momo by Night sphere is retalking about the Treaty of Fiire. However, the downside of all of those things is that the Treaty of Fiire happened 15 years ago. And for some newer players, that's half, if not a quarter of their lives. I know that at the time, I was 6, 7 during the time this plot was played.
So old. So old.
Clarity. We're going to be getting into the ideal is to do this chronologically, but again, it happened 15 years ago, so some things are going to be missed and some things are going to be emphasized. But with that being said, I'm going to toss it to you, Adam. My job here is basically just going to make sure that we all stay on track. How did the Year of Fiire begin? If you have the details of the conceptualized phase, I encourage you to elaborate on it. And if not, we can definitely get into what the plot was written with.
Yeah, no, makes sense. So one of the big reasons why I invited Jimmy to join us today is Jimmy's going to provide a great perspective from a player's perspective who was heavily involved with the Year of Fiire. I was heavily involved in the Year of Fiire as a storyteller. Now, and the origins of this really comes down from when people most think that I wrote that plot, that I wrote the Year of Fiire. I didn't. Brad Klinger wrote that plot. And we were sitting around one day, and I was really into World of Warcraft at the time, and went, "This is brilliant. Why don't we do this as an org? You know, World of Warcraft releases a new expansion every couple of years that continues the story. What what have we done in one world that like is a story for the entirety of the org?" And Brad was like, "Oh yeah, we just never done that. But I've already worked on this as an idea." And I was like, "Oh, I like that," because that story that Brad wrote actually comes from the VTES canon. So when they canceled Vampire the Masquerade and they were in Requiem, the Vampire the Eternal Struggle people continued the plot line. So you can go back and find those documents on the internet, and it's instead of Nergal, which is what it is in that plot, we just changed it to Moloch and Troil and used it as the foundation of like a love story. Is ultimately what it was. So the origins was that like, hey, do you think we can pull this off? And do you think like the org would respond positively to it? Because there wasn't really a concise story for the entirety of the org. Games had their own stories. You know, there was politics McKimmery with Archons and Justicars, stuff like that. So Brad and I got to writing, and then we pitched it to all the coordinators at the time and said, "Hey, would you guys support this? This is what we're trying to do." And if you go back and look at that original prop, you'll see the list of all of the coordinators that backed it. It was every single one. And we propped it, it passed, and then we started to run it. So Jimmy, for you, what was like your starter introduction to the Year of Fiire?
Yeah, so let's see. There was a plot that was getting some national interest. They were doing like the siege of the Orange County siege in LA, I want to say, and that and that at the time was like, sometimes you had like this a game like, all right, we're going to do our big Sabbat plot, and they tend to be pretty similar. Where it's like there's a big bad Sabbat pack out there. People are going to proxy in, camera PCs, get some jingoistic rhetoric about going to join, and this is a good one for me. My PC had just made Archon, and I came from a checkered path where the Archons in charge of the effort were Jessica Kesh, who I had once staked and handed over to the Dead Man Tan, and Adrian Sarah, who, because I just mentioned I was bored, my character was friends with Adrian. I mentioned to Adrian once that I was just bored because I didn't really have any good enemies anymore. And so Adrian was like, "I got you, fam," and like just went on like this years-long campaign of trying to just destroy me before I finally cornered her in Green Bay. I'm like, "Why'd you do it, Adrian? Why'd you do, like you betrayed me, why?" And like, "I did it for you. And I was like, you can go. And anyway, so like I hit them back up and I was like, hey, I got ordered to help you. I'm going to suggest that I be made second in command of this operation because of my experience, my combat potential, and because I've beaten both of you. Rather smugly.
Oh my god! How did you not die sooner? Holy shit. God, Paul Walker, Guy Ball. For context, for people who don't know, Paul Walker was a Brujah Archon to, at the time, I don't think it was Manuel Cardoza at that point. It was Patrick. It was the previous Brujah Jaskar. Paul, I feel like if we start talking about Paul Walker as a character, we're not going to stop. So continue on.
I'll keep it inside. So here's my understanding of it. So like we're at the end of this siege, and basically this cutscene happens when we're fighting the Sabbat, and then what I understand is like Troil dies in the Middle East, and so all of Brujah like instantly frenzy and go nuts. And there's this cutscene where it's like, we all frenzy, everybody frenzies, like some of the non-Brujah on the team, like pull Patrick out of like a Sabbat fray, and we barely escape with our lives. And that's what, and then we have the dream, and then it kicks it all off. I thought it was really good at the time because in the IRL, like the Arab Spring was happening. So like, I thought like, it's actually kind of this interesting thought that all these uprisings I know the org smartly tries to avoid IRL tie-ins, especially contentious political events, but like, all these revolutions were happening in the Middle East, like these pro-democratic resolutions. And then like, we run a story where Troil wakes up. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's kind of planned. That was I was like,
I hope not. Oh my god.
So so then that's all we've got is we've got the dream, and and we're told that we're supposed to frenzy. So like everybody was just doing all this frenzy stuff that like they didn't even lean into it. Like I thought like, okay, if this is gonna be a plot, like you actually should suffer for this. So like. Who was it? It was what's his name? Oh, I feel so bad. Virgil Deems made like some comment on the cam list, and I just went off on him. And he like.
That's why that evil threat exists.
Yes, that's why that happened. Because I was like, this is no fun unless you actually like take a risk with this whole frenzy thing. So I went off on him, and then he writes Patrick's office a very curt note saying, your Archon has been very disrespectful and needs to pay me a boon. And like, I get this scene where it's like, you're going to pay him a boon. I'm like, I'm not going to do a goddamn thing. And he's like, Patrick's like, you will be paying him, Paul. You will be doing this because I tell you to, and you work for me. And I was like, then I will regret, then fine, then I will pay him. And he held it over me forever and ever until that was one of the last things I took care of. But, so that's how it started off. We're all frenzy and angry and irate. And like, I think the details come slowly in. Like, some of us are trying to work out a group to go to Tunisia initially, and like we're like got a group to go, and I'm like, okay, we're some of the more experienced real players. We need to bring newer ones. So it's like I grabbed a couple people from Canada, and it's like some of the questions were like, oh, what could you bring to the efforts? And this guy was like, oh, I speak French, and I'm like. Yeah, we need a French speaker. Like, we don't all have that on our sheets. So, but it was important. We tried to involve new players. We really, really did. We almost launched this expedition to Tunisia, and then we got it like, I think, kind of telegraphed. You really don't want to go to Tunisia at all. And so we're like, we're not going to Tunisia.
I think I need a bit of context. So this is where I'm going to interrupt you because, like, from a player perspective, right? So we need to talk about what the actual story was, and I'm going to kind of do it in phases. So the start of the story that Jimmy was talking about is people probably to this day still don't know this. So in the canon, Moloch, who's one of the founders of the Bali, was lovers with the Brujah antediluvian Troil. When Rome destroyed Carthage in the Punic Wars, within the canon, the city was burned down and salted, and the last image is Moloch and Troil holding each other in each other's arms and sinking into the earth to never be seen again. So when Brad started writing the plot, he was, which antediluvian can we kill that's just like not used? And we were like, ooh, this exists right here for us to fucking use. No one that's never touched in the canon going like by White Wolf. They don't ever talk about it. It's just like, oh, that happened thousands of years ago. Whatever, it's done and over with. And we were like, we can do that. So within the context of our story in One World, what we had decided was the Tamahe Ra sent mortals as an expedition to dig up Tunisia, which was once Carthage, and Alamut with Urshulgi sent the assassins to go stop them from waking up what lived underneath Carthage. And in the end result, Moloch woke up and in a frenzy diablerized his lover without realizing it, Troil. So he kills Troil. And that's when the what's called the month of rage happens. All of the Brujah across the org immediately frenzy. Their disciplines go wild, much like the Week of Nightmares when the Ravnos Antediluvian is killed. All the Ravnos experience it in various ways through visions. Their disciplines go crazy. And that's what happened to the Brujah. But instead of a week, it lasted a month. And that was like the start of the plot. So that's kind of where that went. And then the next phase we can get into is when Moloch wakes up, there's an entire army of vampire Carthaginians that were buried underneath Carthage, of predominantly Bali, Assamites, and Bruja. So for those that don't know in the canon, Moloch is the least infernal of the Bali founders. He actually believes that, like, hey, these horrible demons need to be kept asleep so that the world doesn't end. So we do these atrocities in order to keep them asleep.
Yeah, demon genre is a Bali genre is a horrific thing.
Yeah, whereas versus Nergal, who's like, I'm gonna burn the world down, and that seems like fun. Like they hated each other and betrayed each other through the canon a whole bunch. But Moloch goes mad when he wakes up because he doesn't know who killed the love of his life, and is like, well, we're killing everyone now until I find out. Army, get up, and then raises the army. This introduces into the org what's called became known as the Neo-Carthaginians. It was this army it was this army that rose up from Carthage of like really old vampires and a bunch of neonates that just woke up from torpor from like, it wasn't Rome just attacking us? And they weren't in on the Bali stuff. So they were going around to games going, hey guys, Carthage was awesome because humans and vampires lived side by side. There was no masquerade. It totally worked. And they just weren't part of like the child sacrifice aspect of things in Carthage. And so
for newer players, this is why you might hear about Neo-Carthaginians being killed on sight from a lot of clans. Wonderful context.
Yeah, so go ahead, Jimmy.
Well, it was compelling because, like, they said rather plainly, like, what is the point of the masquerade? Like, we ruled openly for a long time and things were just fine. If it weren't for those pesky Romans, like, this whole model would have worked. It's like, let's, and there were varying shades. Some of them where it's like, no masquerade now. Some which are like, well, let's systematically take this thing down. And it was good because it was like, in some cases, a very cogent approach of like, the masquerade is not working, it will inevitably fall. And others were like, yeah, we think it will too, but like, no, therefore let's get rid of it and rule openly. They're like, yeah, that's where we disagree.
I think that conversation in tandem with the growing technology of the time and era probably sparked a lot of good conversation.
Yeah.
I would say, I don't know if they're around now, but I would say, like, given, social media and everything, if there are anyone around left, they'd be like, are you ready to listen to us yet? Like, because this, how much longer do you think this is going to go? But
that's actually a really good point. One of the premises, and this is back in 2011 when we did this, was we sat down and we're like, hey, realistically, how does the masquerade survive? Can someone explain that to me?
I think actually, I'll give credit to Alan Purcell. He asked Eddie Webb, who was one of the vampire developers, in a panel thing. He's like, how do you think the vampire setting? And this was early 2010s. It's like, how do you think the vampire setting is affected by technology, social media, everybody having a camera in their pocket? And he's like, that's a good point. And those inspirations, I think, made its way into the V20 setting a little bit.
They did.
So we get to thank one of our own for that.
I think there's that, and it's in there in V5 too, right? Because in V5, vampires are like, no technology, you can't use it, you will super get in trouble for it. The Camarilla, at least. I know the Anarchs are like, that's fucked up, we use social media.
Right. Like, it's kind of silly, like, all you're really doing is disadvantaging yourself against your enemies. It's like, okay, like, it's like, we're not going to use nuclear weapons. Okay, thank you. we appreciate that.
But it's kind of cool to see, at least in V5, not to get up on too much of a tangent, that the Camarilla becomes these paranoid elders that are like, cell phones are death sticks, and like throws them. I loved that. I thought that was a great, like, that really emphasizes the Camarilla to me of just being old feudalism that does not understand.
It's a good evolution, but circling back for at the time, these Neo-Carthaginians talking about like how the Masquerade might fall. What was at the time from a player response? What was Jimmy, your response to these Neo-Carthaginians being civil? Frankly,
so the way Adam and Brad set it up is like they basically allowed games that you could kind of just make your own resurfaced, Neo-Carthaginian elder or two. Like just pick a city in your territory, and they've set up shop there. And so certain areas would have like, I'm the God King of like,
Iowa.
I don't know. Yeah, like yeah, I know Brad had fun with Amr Sin quite a bit, but so they're all over the place, and so it was interesting because everybody's dealing with them, but most were easily able to say this is the adventure players are usually able to say this is ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. It will never work. Like we must destroy these, masquerade threats like good Camarians. But the Brewhop PCs were like, yeah, these are kind of our elders. Same thing with some of the Asimite players. They're like, these are our elders. And like we got to at least listen to them. And so. That was so Brad, who leaned into this plot, as a storyteller in addition to, as a staff member on the Sabbat team. He had Amr Sin, who was the God King of I forget which city, and then his lover Namru, I want to say, who's the embraced child of Troll, and so like. I traveled so much like during this, but like, I'd go out there, and me, with Katie's PC, Lena, and a few others, like, we're like, all right, we'd like to learn more, and so they greet, Namu greets us like, hello, children, like, I am the daughter of our great mother. And we're like, wow, this is cool. Yes, you are, and like, there are various like kind of things, she had various shticks. Like, if I remember, she was in a hot tub all the time and like was very much into like sensual pleasure and things like that.
Oh yeah, it was the era of the hot tub, wasn't it?
Well, it was those NPCs were very Road of Sin because that was like big in Carthage.
Yeah,
more on Road of Sin.
And so like my approach, because it's, I mean, like my PC isn't a dead man's hand. Like I'm used to compromising with monsters, and like I mean, like thinking, okay, like. You're not going anywhere. Like you are a powerful elder. Rather than just like have this simple binary morality, like well, you're bad and must die. Like, can we talk? Can we coexist? And so like
for new player context, the dead man's hand, to vastly simplify what the fuck it is, was a infamous group coterie, a Camarilla coterie that. The rumor goes that they've killed a lot of mainline people. I think Zio was one of them.
No,
didn't kill Zio, but the Dead Man's Hand is so notorious that even today, coteries that are named is considered.
It's a Justiciarial edict because of those fucks.
It's not a Justiciarial edict. It's just a faux pas, which is considerably worse.
Used to be.
There was prohibition against named coteries because when your coterie is a name, then you do bad things. Like that made a lot of sense.
If you have a named coterie that's on like Sabbat Passive Enlightenment with Sabbat Disciplines, it's almost like you're a pack.
Yeah, I remember one time at what was then Midwinter, like with the Dead Man's Hand and our associated coteries, like we wanted to have a meeting, and so we had a lot of people, and like we basically kicked the Asimites out of their room because we're like, hey guys, we got more people than you. Like, can we use this room? Do you mind? And they're like, who are you? We're Clan Asimite. Like, oh, we're the Dead Man's Hand. Sorry. And like, oh, we're going. We're good. Like,
okay, so.
Comments down below if you want another episode with Jimmy going over the Dead Man's Hand.
Dead Man's Hand, yeah. And possibly the other coteries that did exist, because the Dead Man's Hand is the most infamous one. But there were
the Lost Boys, the Colors, the First Family.
We are getting a bit off track, so we're going to circle back. You're used to... speaking to this woman in more of like a gray morality tone. I
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
you are a bruja in this context, right? And these are
Yeah.
your elders. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is fascinating, and so like, that's us in the Midwest, right? Like, there's a different crew, out of the Hartford game that Adam's running, that Jen as her PC Anya is dealing with. There's others on the West Coast, so like, we're all collectively trying to figure out like, can we deal with them? It'd be easy for us if they just knocked all this off and got in line and they weren't our problem, but we kind of like. We're like, we can, and we're at least able to empathize with Assamites because they're like, yeah, these are elders. We're not just going to kill them off. And honestly, some of them are really powerful. We really don't want that fight. And that's how it started. So we're meeting, we meeting them. We meet Amerson. I think, and I don't want to push ahead if we're not ready for it, but I think one of the bigger pushes started. As I recall, out of that game in Hartford, the event game in Hartford, that rather infamous one that I flew out for, I had a ton of fun at.
Yeah.
You want
Let's
to
get
take
into
that?
it.
Yeah. So one of the key things we did with the Year of Fire, while every game had like a plot kit that they could be like, here's your Neo-Carthaginian, this is kind of what you want to push. We'd also decided and gotten on board beforehand we started running this to get multiple large one-roll event games to be like, hey man, are you cool with being what I like call now as a flashpoint? Like this is where we're gonna push the plot forward. A major event is gonna happen here. And we had like 4 or 5 actually going back and looking at the prop before I even got to this episode, I was like, oh my god, it was way more than that. Events sign on to like do these major things. So Hartford in the Northeast event was one of them, which in particular had to do with the rise of a heretic Setite that had risen and come to Hartford, Connecticut, named Aralu, the Whore of Babylon, which was based very much off of the actual Christian prophecy myth of the Whore of Babylon. Um, so there was these flashpoints of these Methuselahs popping up with their like somewhat coordinated agenda with Moloch, whose like decree was burn the world because like my love is dead. Another one was Marhabal, which was the general of Troil. That one went to you
Calvin
remember that one.
Commander of Hannibal, historically.
Yep.
Yeah, and he had that quote: Hannibal, you know how the gods give you these great victories, but you don't know how to use them. And that was when Hannibal would not march on Rome, and he wanted to go around the countryside punishing them before he cut off their head, and that's what cost him.
Yeah, same guy.
Because there's Marball, yeah.
Same guy, but
Oh
a
my
Methuselah.
god.
And so that one.
Oh god.
That one went to Nonclave. That was where the big one happened. Jimmy, you might actually remember this better than me. I don't remember which is the first event that like did the Flashpoint.
It was one I didn't go to, and that was like the Neo-Carthaginian debut, and they basically were like, who wishes to join our great sect now? And there was like a couple PCs that signed up. It might have been Atlanta. I don't want to. It was one I wasn't able to go to.
We went to like all the same ones except for like that one, and I didn't go to KublaCon.
Yeah, I was guessing in California.
Yeah. I don't remember the Kuba one, but so let's see. Yeah, as Intel's coming in. So actually, it was fun. I think for Aralu, like I redid my wiki like 2 years ago during my one shot to come back. I think I actually Control Left and changed Whore of Babylon to Sex Worker of Babylon, like in every entry I could find, just to be more. Just be more contextual.
It's a modern org.
You're referencing a Christian prophecy, but makes you better.
I don't say that anymore. Like, you got like a huge one. Yeah, that was big, but like. So leading up to that, I know there's stuff happening on the Sabat side, and Lex worked out an alter ego as a Bruja named Terry. That was like.
Right. Do you remember what his last name was?
Doretto, yeah. Is it Japanese? Terry Doretto? I never.
All right, for the viewers that don't know, Jimmy played a character named Paul Walker. Lex, at the time, was playing a very prominent Sabat member named Antonio Devereaux, who was a member of the Black Hand. It was like, I needed information, the Camarilla Bruja of information. And like he knew of Paul Walker, and so he made a Bruja identity named Terry Doretto, who was effectively Vin Diesel's character in Fast and the Furious.
I just say for the record, the actor was not that big when I made this character way, way, way back. And every Fast and the Furious movie that came out, I was like, well, they're not going to do another one, are they? And then they did. Movies, I'm just like I have to look for Petroleum so I can change my name. Or, but by then everyone's polite and they just stop. Only Alan Purcell was still making the jokes, like 10 years into it. So it was fine. It was fine.
So context about Lex's Bruja named Terry Doretto.
Yeah. That was why. And so he had infiltrated the court of Hartford as a Bruja, as a young Bruja. And let's see, how had Anya recovered the sword of Troil by then?
Yeah, God,
I think she had it. I think she did. Because you worked out this elaborate thing for the whole event, which was really neat. And there were some NPCs that were defecting to the Carthaginian side, and some that were antagonists. And we got a couple, and there were some big crazy fights and all this stuff. And I remember though, it had sort of. I think Anya confided in my character that there was some push happening where she felt like, and I wish we had Jen on to tell her side of this, but that the essence of Troil was trying to take her over, or that she was aware of this. And I was just like, oh, we can't let that happen, but her hair would turn red sometimes, when, the spirit of Troil, was on her. And then, she had this, she had the sword of Troil, which Jen made the prop for, and Jen is a fencer, so she made it appropriately sized. But I just see her carrying the sword, and of course, when you're holding a sword, when your arm drapes, it should be just above the floor. And so, I just see her walking with it, and I was like, oh, our progenitrix was your height. That's really interesting, Anya. But then she looks at me like this, and she told me later, she's like, this guy is going to sell me out to Troil in a heartbeat. He clearly cares more. He does not care about me, and we go over the fight. I could call you on camera for this. So we have the fight with a sex worker of Babylon, and we're all just sort of talking, and because it's a huge fight. This is a Fowler set with all the points and all the elder powers. So hey, guy, I'm like, hey, wait, who's gonna tank this? Because I'm a Bruja. Nowadays there's gangrel techniques and combo powers for days that give you all the health levels. And nobody had any of that back then. I didn't have any of that. And so hey, who's gonna tank who's gonna tank the sex worker? And it's she's gonna go for Anya. I'm not gonna let her go for Anya. So the combat starts. And Adam is like, okay, Jimmy, heart thief. I'm like, lose the first challenge, lose the second challenge. I'm like, okay, he's like, 2 simples. I'm like, oh God. And I lose the first simple. And I'm like, she gets my heart if I lose this challenge. This is it. My PC is gone if I lose this challenge. And then everyone's just looking around is this about to happen? Is he about to go down like this? And then we do it, and I win the next test. Everyone's like, oh, okay, good. That was close one. I'm like, haha, guys, that was close. Anytime you want to chime in with because Chuck was there playing Desai. He had some crazy artifact. He could use some song-based thom power that would debuff, and he wasn't doing it yet, And so Lex is there, and it's anytime you want to jump in, and so then they're and then we try to get her back, everybody riffs, and then Adam decides that Heart Thief works with celerity, and he targets me again, and I lose the first challenge in the retest, in the other retest, and then he's 2 simples, I'm like, well, I just did this, and then I lose the first of the 2 simples, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to win this one again. And everyone's looking at me, and I'm looking at and I'm like, what are you guys going to do with? Yeah, what are you guys going to do if my heart gets pulled out? And Chuck told me later, he's like, oh, dude, I was just going to outright kill you, just outright ash you, not even recover the heart. I was just going to firebolt your heart. I won. I somehow won the next challenge, and I'm like, will you guys debuff her? And so then Lex, jumps her, and he's like, it lands, does it clean, hits. Good, thank God. Let's get some negative physicals on her. We'll tear her down, And he's like, nah, headshot. And I'm like, Lex, what the hell is wrong with you? Headshot? You're not going to headshot. Are you insane? It's too hard test. And he's like, nah, man, it's too epic. I got to do it. And I'm like, you are insane. Would you please just do a regular one? And he's like, headshot. And he wins the first challenge. And then he wins the second challenge. And then we go nuts. Like, we go nuts in the combat. Like, it's like, oh, sure, she's gone. We just, knock her around. She escapes because, the event wasn't over, so of course she escapes. But
right. Plot reasons, the villain, I believe.
She escapes. Later on, my good friend Chris Wenzel was there, and her incapacitation triggered a certain derangement that he has. His character, Luis Agrippa, had that makes it really hard to not commit diablerie, and he helped himself.
Yep.
And that was it. But so the conclusion.
I got to diablerize the sex worker of Babylon out to NPC out. Yeah.
And he was
and then he got taken down for it.
He was 9th gen, and so he got a 2-fer out of it, and that bumped him to 7. And so later on, we went to Amerson and said, will you please use what's the one that makes you 13th gen again?
Oh, you put me on the spot with my way with Lore. Hold on.
Yeah, makes you 13th gen again that they did to Tariq the Silent and Canon,
No, that doesn't help me. I mean, like, it's right there on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the first lady because that's not fucking it. But anyways, No.
Correct this in the correct this in the comment.
Lex is going to yell at me later and be like, I can't believe you didn't remember that ritual.
Right. So, like, in the Kenosha game, like, put up a prop. Hey, look, this happened. Ha. It was fun. It was NPC, crazy epicness. We just want to restore this PC to playability, and let's move on, guys. And everyone's like, no, he NPC. Like, the council vote did not pass. He didn't get to return to PC status. So, like, they're like, no, you're NPC'd out, my dude. Have a nice day. That's how we started playing Pagan more and more, which is his backup character, and of course had a pretty good
whole other story.
That's of course. So the end of that is like, I will tell you that it's very common in psychology. People who survive traumatic events together tend to form very close bonds. I will say this is also very in character. And not out of character. We both had relationships at the time, but like there's a budding romance between Paul and Anya at the end of this, and I'm not telling you the nature of this exchange. It was super cheesy. It's okay. It's being recorded. There was some line. It's like when she was trying to pull my heart out, I knew she couldn't have it because it belonged to you or something like. And it was like emotion and all this stuff. And then Adam's watching this exchange, right? And he's like, Jen, I'll be playing the part of Anya right now. And he just, steps in. Paul, would you do anything for me? Like, of course, Would you follow me to the ends of the earth? Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's get on a plane. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, Jimmy, do you do it? I'm like, yeah. And so we're on a plane, and basically the plane takes what's the name of the city? Chorzin. It's like, the plane lands in the Middle East, and you're in Chorzin, and then Anya turns to you and says, "You will remain with me." It's something super nefarious, and I'm like, damn it! There's my sheet. I survived Heart Thief. I survived everything. You got me. And then who's playing Esmumesh?
Jacob Hoffman.
Yeah. So Hoffman swoops in a burst of temporis, rescues Paul, takes him off to the side, and I was like, "You're Esmumesh. You're a traitor. You sold us out to Rome." And he's like, "Listen, you've got to rally the clan and stop Troy." And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this traitor, but fine, By the way, incidentally, historically, so in canon, Esmumesh sold out the garrison plans and all the city's defenses to the Romans. But something I found out later. Because he was like, oh, human sacrifice is bad and it pains my conscience. IRL, Esmumesh was the god of healing in Carthage, and he actually did the tallest temple of anybody, believe it or not. I had nothing to do but read, history of Rome and Carthage, during this whole Year of Fire thing. So I learned that. Yeah, I learned that. I was like, that's kind of hypocritical. Like, guy with the biggest temple is the one who sells out, like defects because he's, sounds kind of crybaby-ish, but whatever, Um,
So
it
I'm going to
just
interrupt
starts
there.
like,
We're going to
yeah,
interrupt
go for
there.
it.
We got other beats to hit. So the first context
Yeah.
is the Sword of Troil. That first
Yes.
shows up in Brazil. That's where it first showed up for their participation in the event. And for the viewers, the Sword of Troil is a canon sword that obviously Troil the Bruja Antediluvian wielded in battle and was notorious for being able to just kill anyone, like all sorts of mystical qualities associated with it. Well, within the context of the story, Moloch, when he diablerized Troil, her soul, he failed that diablery. The soul did not go into him. It went into the sword that was buried with Troil.
Oh.
Yeah, so that
So,
sword was given to one of the generals of Moloch, who was like, go burn South America to the ground. And so when the PCs confronted them, they had beat their army, beat the bad guys, and they got this fucking weird sword. And they're like, what is this thing? And why does it like talk? And they ended up giving it to Pashik. And they were like, Pashik, yeah, they're like, Pashik, here you go. And then Anya went to Pashik to be like, I need that sword to kill the sex worker of Babylon. That's how
we're
she
really going
got
for
it.
it.
She called in a favor with Pashik to get that sword.
Okay, that's how she got it. I always sort of wondered. Okay, so she has that.
And that's how Troil begins to like seep into her and start.
Because it starts speaking to Anya, and I don't think Jimmy was there for that scene where I pulled Jen into a room, like when this is all going down at the event, and I'm like, hey, I need a scene with you. And she's like, oh, okay. And she starts having a conversation with her. Like when the people in the room see her just having a conversation with herself, but I'm standing there and I'm playing Troil that only she can see, explaining to her like the antediluvians are all fucking bad. They're terrible. This world is awful and not what it's supposed to be. They're just oppressing humans, and we need to free everyone. Just being like the ultimate freedom fighter and getting Jen to be like, oh, that sounds fucked up, man. And she's like, you can think that, but you need my help to win right now. And she's like, I fucking do need that. And Troil is like, cool, let me take control a little bit. And like, I'll give you the power you need in order to be here. And so Jen's backed into this corner of like, I can say no to this, but like, if I do, we're probably not winning this fight, which is super.
You'll lose the only.
Which means all of the Northeast is fucking enslaved to this Setite Methuselah. So she makes the deal effectively. I mean, there's chops and powers thrown around back and forth, but that's when it starts. So like when she's in that fight, her hair goes red, like Troil's hair. It's because it's when she starts to take over. And at the culmination of that plot, she grabs Paul Walker and is now fully possessed by Troil. And Troil's like, you need to take a back seat, buddy, for what's going on. I need this body real quick.
I think it's wonderful story symmetry that was not planned to have Anya possessed by Troil talk to a Bruja and be like, wouldn't you lead me here forever?
Which is, I forgot, but like Troil talked to all of us, and we had Lex there as Terry, and she's like, you're not one of mine at all, and he's like, and we're like, excuse Terry, would you like to tell us something? And then he outs himself, and like it's a huge thing, and it's like, okay. By the way, if I'd have known that Anya cut a shady deal, which I fully respect, I would have let her tank for herself in that fight. Like I would not. But yeah, there's a scene where like that's where Terry gets outed, and the way that sort of progressed is afterward I hit him up and I was like, okay, Terry, you are going to, and he's like, look, I'm really sorry. I actually came to really like you guys. And I was like, all right, here's what you're going to do. You are going to out yourself on Bruja Rant List and show yourself the door. And like he waited like a couple of days to do it, and then somebody else found out. They're like, there's a Sabbat member on the list. And I was like, yes, and he has something to say, doesn't he? And he's like, guys, I'm really sorry I lied to you. I'm just going to leave and show myself out. But then years later, they're like, he tolerated a known Sabbat member. And that was like one of the charges of the conclave, like later on. Like he tolerated a known Sabbat member being on the Bruja Rant. And I'm like, no, for morale purposes, I told him he needed to apologize and out himself and show himself, which he did.
To be fair, there were Bruja on that list that went, you know what? You're cool, man. We like you. Just, you can
Yeah,
stay.
yeah.
We're fine with it. So you're a little
Yeah,
somber.
like
The variety of the Bruja clan is that some people are like, we need this dude in the ground, and some other guys are like, nah, dog, I'm getting a drink with him right now. That's what we're planning this week.
So that northeast event then leads, if I'm remembering correctly, to Nonclave first. So where there's the battle with Marhabal. And so what ends up happening is, and it was perfect.
I thought that was Hadrian. Was it Hadrian?
Oh, you're right. That's Hadrian.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Super Infer. I get the generals confused all the time because there was like 4, and they all have
That's okay.
They all have punic ass names.
I wasn't there for that fight, but like you needed like true faith or loyalty to like basically make him vulnerable or damaged. Like it was this super epic fight. And who was it? I wish I remember the PC's name. Okay, I'm trying to remember PC's name.
Yeah.
Like somebody had loyalty to Curran de Silva, the Gangrel Archon, and like basically like if I remember the pretext of the killing blow, if I heard this story, it was like someone's like, in the name of Curran de Silva, I banish thee. And like,
Yeah. So here's how this goes down. The Northeast event is predominantly a CAM event that had some Sabbat infiltrators. Like Frank Schlegler was also there for the sex worker of Babylon fight.
Yeah,
because the Bruja showed up, like, because the Bruja across the world, which is why I'm so glad it worked so well. Because at the time, the Bruja in one world had such prominent players that were so RP heavy that they were just grabbing players. So the engagement immediately just started happening. So like the Sabbat Bruja were like Frank Siegler were like, fuck yeah, I'm there. Let's fuck this bitch up. Let's go. And like that's how they went to the Northeast event. But it wasn't a predominantly Sabbat cam event. At Nonclave, there's a Sabbat side and there's a cam side. So there was an opportunity here that, okay, we need to come up with a reason to bring these two sides together because we knew NOLA was coming up next. So if we just threw them together at NOLA, it made no sense. Like they've never worked together. Why would this be a thing? Which we'll get to NOLA in a minute. So there's a huge fight with one of the generals, and like there were people headshot withering him, and he was super infernal, and he just like had powers that were like, oh, my head's not withered anymore. And I can remember Chris Govan hanging out with me. He's playing Father Allen, and the dude it's Jacob Hoffman that's playing Hannibal, and he keeps turning to Chris and being like, okay, so psychic assault. And Chris is like, oh, okay, whatever. And then like wins the challenge and goes back to like role playing. And the third time it happens, he looks to me and goes, hey, Adam, what does that power do anyways? I keep winning it. And I'm like, oh, if you lose, you fucking die. And he was like, that's what that does? Like, flipped out. And he's like, oh my God. So a huge fight happens. Lillian Townsend gets turned into a jade statue.
That's how that happens?
That's how that happens. And they had, like, that's a whole thing that's great. But the Sabbat and the Cam has to come together in order to win this fight. A lot of cool RP happens, a lot of drama of tension between the two groups, but both realizing, hey, by ourselves, we can't win this. And this is way worse than either one of us thinks of the other side. So that set the precursor to NOLA, which, Jimmy, you were at NOLA, right, for that one, Grandmaster?
I was. So like, okay, there's a couple. There's a lot of people you got to give shout outs to who are like doing cool stuff at this time. I know Ian Paxton's PC and Brosio was like really involved. Like I helped him with, I got him in a lot of stuff, and he did great on his own. I know so for Noel in particular. Trent, who played Prince Tommy Truelove of Tampa, was there.
Truelove, baby.
I love Tommy Truelove from the moment I saw him in Enclave, and like everybody hated him. Like Joe Schuster's PC was like super mean to him, and I was like, no man, I love this. He showed up. Trent, he had this big fur coat, you know, like the print. I remember like the Enclave I met him. Like the Prince was like trying to make an announcement, and he's like, we can't hear you in the back, baby. You know, this cocky fur coat and everything, and like I was like, this guy's going to be big. Like I love this guy. And so like he was getting involved in stuff, and he came to New Orleans. I mean, there was let's see. Oh gosh. I mean, there was the Nas players are doing stuff at this point. They're getting pretty involved. Chuck was playing, Decide the Esmite. We had like a lot of people involved in this, but I'm sure. Okay, there's still. There's one thing that Brad ran where it's like there's this moment. Did that happen before or after where it's like basically Amerson gets rendered torpid, and there was like this fight. Maybe we should cover it after, because I think the Tree of Fire stuff is like cool. But like, so we're all there, and I'm playing an Archon, and we all get told, hey, the Sabbat is coming, and they're going to work out this deal, and you will not fight or antagonize or do anything to Sabbat whatsoever. Also, you cannot be on the committee if you're an Archon, And I'm like, all right, fine. Yeah, we're doing security. Oh. So like, we have a Brujah meeting. I was like, all right, guys, this is how it's going to go. And like, who's going to be on there? And Tim Madsen, who played John Sebastian, came back and he's like, hey, why don't you just resign your position? Then you're on the committee. And I was like, no, it took me forever to get this spot. Like, I'm not going to resign. And I was like, but who should be on that committee? It's Tommy Truelove right there. And so like, and so we're all, and so it's like, it's not, everybody likes Tommy by that point. He's a Prince of Tampa. He's got the pedigree by then. We all like him. It's like, all right, Tommy's our guy. And
then got unacknowledged and then re-acknowledged in the span of a week. Yeah. But I want to stop you there because we're jumping a little bit ahead here. Adam, can you tell us a little bit about the Sabbat and the campsite coming together in New Orleans? Because that's a really big part of the Treaty of Fire.
Yeah. So a little bit of context for those that don't know, because they only ever did 3 of them. There was 3 Grand Masquerades. These were events run and promoted by White Wolf itself. The first one was in 2010. Then that was so successful they decided to do again in 2011, which is ironically they also decided to release V20. That was the release event for V20. And they invited all of the fan clubs. This was Mind's Eye Society at the time, One World by Night. We all come together.
It was really just too.
Yeah, it was TCNG too, I think was there. And then there was the Wrecking Crew, which was the tabletop guys. And then there was the V-Test folks, which was Black Chantry, if I remember correctly. Black Library, something like that. No, Black Library is 40K. Wrong. So I had run 2010's the first Grand Masquerade because Jen had asked me to help her run it. I wrote the plot, which was effectively the very short version. As I took the clan novel plot and condensed it down and ran it in an event. I was like, "Oh, that felt good. That seemed to roll really well." And then people had a lot of fun. We had a large turnout. And then I was
so mad. Me and Mike, we had the Eye Jezebel, but you didn't let us give it to we had the football, we had it to the end zone, but because there was one night event left in the event game, you're like, oh, you guys fumble, somebody else gets the Eye Jezebel, and then Schuster got to claim the credit for all that one. Like I was so mad. But
I'm still mad to this day.
I've never forgotten that.
So So Grand Masquerade 2, I was like, hey guys, you want to come back and do it again? And I was like, yes, I do, and I have an idea. And so I'm like, I need these things. And they're like, what do you need? And I'm like, I need 2 big rooms for a very specific reason. They're like, okay. And like, I need these side rooms, I need these things. And to White Wolf's credit, for especially during NOLA 1 and NOLA 2, because they really were so good about wanting to re-engage with their fan community, because there had been a lot of like drama and shit that happened over the years between White Wolf and its fans that we don't need to get into. But they put in a conservative effort to bring everybody back together, and literally, as like Jurassic Park, spared no expense. And so I just kind of was like, I need this, and so I'm like, done. And I was like, okay, cool. So we start off the event having Sabbat and Cam run at the same exact time. Sabbat is running in one side, in one of the whole big rooms, and Cam's running the other whole big side of the room. And none of the players know what's about to happen. So on the Sabbat side, I'm working with Roger to coordinate on the Cam side. I'm like, you need to do this on the Cam side. I'll go handle the Sabbat side on the Sabbat court at the time. And they're meeting in Mexico City, and the regent comes out and is like, hey guys, thanks for answering my call. We needed to meet in Mexico City. Heads up, the world's gone to shit, as you may have all noticed. It's really bad. There's infernalism everywhere, and this Moloch guy is totally going to end the world. Because for those that don't know, the 9th level of Diamondian among the Bali is literally you tear a hole open in reality into a Cthulhu monster that shouldn't exist here that destroys the world. And no Bali has ever successfully used it. That's their printed level 9 power. And Moloch's like, doing that because like my love's dead. It's just literally, I love the theme of a villain who is hold on, if you just went to therapy, that like none of this would have been. You made your depression
An
everyone's
emo
problem.
crash out is
Yeah, the
always so
crash out is
good.
everyone else's problem. So the regent tells the Sabbat, and they're like, "Okay, where are you going with this?" And he's like, "Hey, man, we're about to get on a plane. Yep, me, the regent, with all of our cardinals and everyone, and we're getting on this giant plane that I've organized, and we're flying to New Orleans to go meet the Camarilla." And the Sabbat PCs are like, "What you mean, though?" and he's like, "We need to discuss some like calm the fuck down terms between the Camarilla and the Sabbat so that we can pause our shit and deal with this. And it's on you all to negotiate it. So figure out who the hell you're going to get to be sent as the Sabbat representatives, because they're going to pick people on the cam side, and there's going to be a meeting. And while that group's meeting, everyone else has to like get along for 2 days. So the Sabbat flies in, and we then move all of the players into the cam area. And the cam players are like really confused what's going on, because as they're doing that, Roger's explaining that the Sabbat will be arriving and that this is why the world is at a tipping point. The masquerade's going to fall. We literally have no choice here. So I walk up onto the stage as Sasha Vikos, the regent's there, and we explain to the group what's going to happen, how the event's going to go. They're like, hey, there's going to be discussion and negotiations. There's to be no violence. The security is being run by a joint group of archons and the Black Hand to make sure that this does not happen. And so like we talk about it, and then Lex loves giving me shit about this, is someone. And we try to tell everyone in the Sabbat meeting beforehand is like, hey man, keep the Sabbat shit down as much as you can, because they're camis, they're gonna get offended real easy. Someone from the back yells praise
down.
Kane. And as soon as it starts, like 80 Sabbat players in the middle of a Camarilla gathering scream praise Kane. And I look at Roger and I'm like, I'm sorry. I tried.
They did it like every 5 minutes. I remember, like, so like they would just like any conversations they had that they could segue into it. They would just oh yeah, just having a great day today. Hey, praise Kane. Praise Kane throughout the.
I think straight up, without Adams knowing, I think they elaborated it. Like they made an elaborate thing together. I'm actually interested, Jimmy. What was the cam's opinion of this? Because I'm sure everyone wasn't super hunky dory, which is kind of hanging out with Sabbat.
Well, I should say, like, for one, like, Grant was adamant out a plan for them to do the repeating chorus of praise Kane. Like, it added wonderfully to the tension of it. It made for a very good game because, like, it made it impossible to pretend that these were your friends on the other side of the room. So like. It made game work just as intended there. On the cam side, let's see. I mean, in character wise, we don't want to do this, but if we have to do this, we need to show them that we're better than them, and pretty much like do what we can to like make sure we're the dominant partner in this relationship or whatever, I mean, out of character, we all knew this was going to happen. Like we all knew something like this was going to happen. So it was fine. We've gotten in character and out of character. Like all the Archon PCs, like don't get in the way of this, don't mess with this. So like, all right, fine, we get it. But it was you wanted to be in the room, like. I can only speak for the clan meeting I did attend, but there was a lot of like, we don't want to partner with them. I'm sure a lot of people are like that, but others are like, we have to. It's practicality, and obviously the practical side won. I mean, nobody was going to boycott that and risk not having a seat at the table, And I know that it was basically a seat per clan on the cam side. How are the Sabbat seats allocated? I'm trying to remember.
So we decided, since the Black Hand was doing security, we left it to the PCs. We just said, hey guys, you get this number of seats. Please pick your number of seats. And so this works really well because Jimmy is playing the main area. I'm in the back boardroom with me playing Vikos, Roger playing Hardestat, and Brian Orlando playing Kret. Because part of the story that I just remembered is the Nkanu in the book called Layer of the Hidden, which deals with the 12 Methuselah leaders of the Nkanu. The end story of that gives you a couple of different options that the players can have, and we decided to just pick one. And the one we picked was the Nkanu, those Methuselahs, leave the castle, realizing Gehenna is nigh, and seek out any allies they can to avert Gehenna, regardless of what sect they're in. So I forgot about
For
that.
context, before Adam continues, for the new players in the audience, the Nkanu is a independent sect that is considered mostly
Watchers.
hush hush. They're watchers, they're puppeteers that don't
That seek
usually actually
conduct.
intersect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so them leaving their big tower to join things is a huge deal. It's absolutely insane.
So
These people, when they introduce themselves as Nkanu, people don't know what that is.
yeah, so they don't even introduce themselves as Nkanu. When the 6 of them that we sent out to games to use to represent, that's how we seeded the Grand Masquerade. Was we sent like specific chords with these NPCs to be like, hey guys, this is real bad. Like Gehenna's gonna happen. We need to work together. So that's how we seeded it. And they named their group the Neftali. That term comes from the Gehenna novel or the Gehenna book, the actual book to run it. If you look at
Mhm.
Nightshades, one of the things that happens during Gehenna is both the Camarilla and the Sabbat start to collapse because they're just institutions to control the young. That's really what both are, just from different perspectives. And when the actual shit hits the fan, they're not designed to like actually have Gehenna happen. It just falls apart immediately. So Jan Peterzoon and Sasha Vikos and a couple of those Nkanu guys make a new sect called the Neftali, which is to stop Gehenna at any means possible. If we don't care about what your past is, come join us. So we took that aspect and applied it to those Nkanu members. So Brian Orlando is playing Krat as the representative who's like mediating. He's like, excellent. My jihad-like plans have worked. You've all come together. And so the Sabbat side had decided on their side of the table that they had one for each clan on camp, and they sat the Salubrianti tribute Chuck's Alexi directly across from the Tremere Prince. Like they had specifically lined it up. And what was cool about the Sabbat side is the camp side was all like older princes. The Sabbat side was like they picked new players that were like archbishops and shit, and we're like, you're in on this. Start making decisions. So we start opening negotiations and the
Oh.
Camarilla is like, Sabat, what is your let's start. What is your first thing? And the Sabat, because they had all talked beforehand what their game plan was. The princes of the Camarilla had not. They all had different agendas. So the Sabat look at each other and they go, okay, in order for us to work together to sign this treaty, we demand that the Camarilla exterminates the Tremere. They're a terrible clan. They're awful and they're usurpers. And Gilson's Prince Kelly jumps up and screams, "We agree." And then the
For
young princes are like, no, we cannot do that.
For context here, Sovereign Prince Kelly was one of the only documented princes in Warmel by Night who had princes underneath him in the Lehigh Valley. He was a gangrel batshit prince that anyone from Steel Valley, if you heard of the game, could definitely give you a very long story about him. But him popping up and going, "Let's do it. Let's kill the Tremere."
Yeah,
Super on brand for that man.
What unfortunately happened, I mean, unfortunately or unfortunately, the Camarilla players did not organize it all or work together. The Sabbat players all did. So they had a game plan and they had things that happened beforehand. So to rewind a little bit, during Grand Masquerade, there's a bunch of games happening all around, not just from one world. Like Mind's Eye Society is running games, the tabletop guys are running a game. So it wasn't super clear, but during the Sabbat, when we're in Mexico City, this dude walks in and happens to come across Lex, who's playing Antonio. And the guy's like, "Hey, I'm so and so Giovanni. I'm here to kill the region of the Sabbat." And they're like, "What?" And this guy's like, "Yeah, I'm so and so Elder Giovanni, and I'm here to kill the region of the Sabbat." And so combat starts, and they start to like do combat. And this guy whips out a tabletop sheet. And Lex goes, "Hold up, what? What has happened here?" And then like they find out the tabletop guy thought you could just take your character and go into any of the LARPs and just play. And the story in that tabletop was the Giovanni were being sent to Mexico City to go. It just happened to
That's
fucking work
such a
out.
funny coincidence.
So they talk it out and they're like, "Well, we're gonna keep story continuity. This happens. So cool." And the guy like has a great time, then rolls up a Sabat PC and like joins us. But they kill this
Oh
Giovanni.
yeah.
So before the meeting, the Sabbat are like, "This Giovanni just came to assassinate the regent," and they go grab the Giovanni PCs at the event and get them in a room and like, "Hey guys, you just fucking sent an elder to kill our regent," and the Giovanni players all just in game are like, "Fuck, did we do that? Oh no!" And so the Sabbat go, "Yeah, you did, and you're gonna vote how we vote." And the Giovanni go, "Yeah, we are. Yep, absolutely. Please don't murder our clan." And they're like, "Okay, cool." So they cut a deal with that. They then go into the Anarchs, because the Anarchs are getting a vote on this too. So it's all the Independents, the Camarilla, the Anarchs, the Sabbat in this meeting. And they go to the Anarchs. And I'm like, hey, Anarchs, you know it's fucked up. You're oppressed, right? And they're like, it is fucked up. We're oppressed. And they're like, what we're going to do for you is we're going to put on the table that you guys get a conclave, that you will be acknowledged as your own separate sect. And we're going to vote for it. All you got to do is vote for what we want. And the Anarchs were like, yeah, doing that. So, like, all this politicking happened, and no one on the
no.
Yeah,
that conclave is still yet to happen in 2025. It almost happened. It almost happened this year, and it didn't happen this year.
Sabbat players did this amazing amount of politicking, willing to work with everyone, and the Cam can't even work together among the princes because they've got their own rivalries. So this is.
I want to be clear. That's very much by genre, though. To their credit, like.
Princes having rivalries and not getting along is a thing.
My other favorite moment is let's see the instructions I gave to Tommy Truelove. I believe at one point he slid a note across to Sasha Veikos, like during a tense moment of negotiation. I was like, Tommy, you got to do this to Sasha Veikos at one moment. And he slides a note across, and Sasha lifts it up, and it's like, do you like me? Check one.
Yeah. You know what I did? Did he ever tell you what I did?
What did you do?
I circled both of them and sent it back to him.
Oh my God.
So these tense negotiations are happening, and they're slowly developing what becomes the Convention of Fire. Roger calls a break. We go outside, and he's still, like, there's players around us. So I'm playing Sasha Veikos, and he's playing Jan Peterzoon. And he looks at me and goes, How dare you? How could your demand start with the destruction of Clan Tremere? And I look at him and I go, how did yours not start that level? We obviously knew we weren't going to get that. So now anything we present becomes reasonable. And he was like, oh, fuck me. Like, I was like, how did you guys not also do that? And while we're having this discussion, there's a player walking by, fully costumed, in babies, okay? He's got, like, baby dolls all strapped to him. And, like, Roger turns to me with Jan Peterson, surrounded by PC, and he's like, what the fuck with your Sabbat shit? I told you to, like, not do this. And, like, this is fucked up. And then Archon taps him on the shoulder. He's like, what? And he goes, sir, he's Camarilla. He's one of ours. And I turned to him with Veikos, and I'm like, oh, maybe you should police your people. And, like, they're kind of outrageous with their, like, loss of humanity. And he's just like, and, like, storms off. Jan did not have a good event.
Was truly a different time.
It was.
So, yeah, they negotiate what becomes the convention, and then all the PCs are doing their things, and yeah, so that's kind of what happens there. The Convention You Fire you can pull now off the website, like you can go to my wiki and grab it, is what we ended up negotiating. And the ultimate thing is if you actually look at what the treaty does, because A's right, after 15 years, a lot of people think the treaty does a lot of things that it doesn't do. So the treaty is only invocable to deal very specifically with infernalism and the Neo-Carthaginians. And the terms are, when that's invoked, hey guys, we won't kill each other. That's the terms of the treaty. Anything other than that, well, also, it did cause the cessation of the global hostilities between the Camarilla and the Sabbat. That's like the first part too, because during that discussion, it was the Masquerade talk in 2011 of like, hey guys, if we have open war between the Camarilla and the Sabbat throwing down in cities, the Masquerade is cooked. And we both know those folks have armies and nuclear weapons now. We don't survive. It's just a fact. So, like, we can't do that anymore. So that's why the cessation of hostilities is in there.
Before you get too much into it, I do want to circle back to Jimmy here, because you were talking previously about Paul's experience at that event, about getting Tommy on staff. Is there anything else that happened at that event while you were playing as Paul Walker?
It was tough because, like, you know, I also had my Sabbat PC, like Lewis at the time, and like two people from my pack ended up being on the Sabbat side, you know, and they're like, dude, man, you can't even do anything as an Archon. I'm like, play your Sabbat PC. But now I was like, nah, guys, I'll just stick to this. But no, it was. I think that it was pretty straightforward. Like I will say, I don't think we had quite the, I don't know. I mean, the Sabat did really, really well in their talks and everything, and that's fine. I think it was good because like different people got to step up and kind of hold a negotiation role, and I think they all got a status, right, for being there. I think I claimed the status on my Sabat PC, and like shut up. If anybody's like, you weren't there, I was like, I was there. I don't know. I'm trying to remember because I hear this and I'm like, man, why didn't we we certainly had the capability to politic that hard back. Like, why didn't we? I think it was just that
it was divided.
Well, the representatives were decided in clan meetings specifically, as opposed to everybody pulling together. So like when they all came together, they're like, okay, I've got an agenda for my clan rather than I've got an agenda for my sect. And when you have these clan agendas, they don't often play well with one another. I'd say hitting the Giovanni, we'll say falling into your lap was some fortunate circumstances.
Until after the event, to be fair, because they just kept rolling IC. No one told me about that.
Oh, that's funny. No, I think it was it. But I mean, those NOLA events, though, like if you were at those, it was really like the high watermark of the org. In terms, I think for those, like, yeah, like so the Mind's Eye Society, or whatever they were at the time, like they put up like 700 people, and I think we were like close to 600. Like,
whoa!
It was really freaking nuts. Nowadays, I don't know that,
it's doable.
Yeah, everybody says that, but everybody thought it was dying in like 2008, 2009, and then we bounced back to that, 2 years later.
Good night.
Go make Grand Masquerade 4. I'll go ST it.
Sure, if you show up with 600 people, Adam, I will absolutely do that.
I'll note that Blood Nice this year, just with pre-registers, has up to 360 people and growing.
God damn.
So the numbers is coming back very, very slowly. I think COVID hit definitely had a portion to do with it. But
COVID devastated the market, and it's like the MES is in a rough spot right now. Hidden Parlor folded, Underground Theater folded. Like I'll give OWBN credit. Like the quick transition to Discord, I think really helped keep everything going. So that was smart.
But tying back to these big events, they come together, they make this beautiful treaty, and Adam has thoughts on it. But to keep it as unbiased as possible, I actually recommend to all the people listening that after this listening, please go and read the treaty in full. There are many different ways that you can do this, whether it be in Sabat Wiki or the Camarilla Wiki or talking to other players.
I'll put it in the comments of this video.
Yes.
There you go.
Reading it in full is a good experience, just because a lot of the conversation topics that are circling around now are due to not reading the treaty. Please read the treaty. But what happened? I think another question, big question I had, because the treaty is the big point, and then no one really talks about what happens afterward. They just assume it fizzles out. What happens after this treaty is made? I assume a big battle of some kind, or.
So, what happens is the last flashpoint is midwinter of that year that's coming up, and we had talked to staff. And
can we back up a little bit before that? Like, I know that. So by then, I think we all knew that like Chorzin was like the end, where it would all happen at the end, And in the months leading that, there was like a few back and forth things that happened. Like people were trying to find it, and the Banaki were like, "Oh, we think we found it," and there's like a false Chorzin. At one point I was like, "Well, I've been there. I can just tell you guys where to go." They're like, "No, that's not the right one. There's like a real one." I don't know if that was just like last minute substitution. We can't give this away too much, But there's different prep that's happening, too. I would say that like as all of this is coming down, like there's crazy things that happen, and thought goes in advance where it's like, all right, how does this likely play out? Supposing we get to Moloch, what can even be used to damage him? And we're like, and so like this is just, I don't even remember. I'm sure I had this conversation, but like we're like, okay, probably the Sword of Troil can do it. It's probably we get Anya back and then we do that. But then amidst all of this, a friend of mine, Ridgely, who I forget the name of the venture she played at the time, and she hits me up. She's like, "Hey, I've got this ace in the hole that nobody knows about, and I haven't told anybody a thing about it. And I'm like, what's that? And she describes like this, I don't know how she found this plot, but she did. And it's this girl, and she can be made into a weapon against Moloch, but she has to give up her life. And she's like, and she says to me in character, because the scene had happened, she's like, you know what? I hate vampires. I think I'm going to let them all burn. I don't care. You know, like, I'm not going to sacrifice this girl so that Moloch dies. And I was like, listen, I agree a lot of us suck. You know, when you and I have gotten along well, why don't we ask the girl what she would want to do knowing that she could save the world? Oh. And so, like, you know, we have this scene and the girl's like, I want to help people. I really, really do. Oh. And, you know, she commits to it, and she dies, and her hair becomes this sword. And this sword became very, very important later on. And so, like, we're running the scene, and it's like, okay, this sword appears, you know, and the ST's like, who picks it up? And Richard's like, you want to try it? He's like, what's your humanity? And I'm like, 3. Like, no, you can't lift it. But Ridgely's PC's humanity 5 or 4 or 5, I think it was 5, and was able to lift it. And so, like, and we're like, okay. And I'm thinking, this is shaping up. We've got Anya, we've got this sword, and I didn't tell anybody about Ridgely and this other option that was out there.
You need to back up. How did you rescue Anya? Do you remember?
And also, very quickly, for new players, this is before we used the 1 to 10 system. We were using the 1 to 5 system. Yeah. So think for context here, when you think 4 or 5, that's the equivalent to 8 to 10. Okay. How was Anya saved?
Oh, I still have drafts. I have like drafts of emails and stuff that I was sending you. Like, I've got one that I leave in my email, and I just look at it every so often. It's like my final bit of notes to you in front of that midwinter. Like, I look at it all the time. It's so, like, what I want to do, how I think. Actually, I think I never sent it, but maybe I will after this. I don't know. I think, if I recall, like, Anya just came back before Midwinter, if I remember. But we also did some other stuff. Like, there's this whole side thing it's like that Brad ran that was cool enough. I kind of want to tell, but I don't want to waste too much time because I know we don't want this recording to be hours. But, like, I remember Brad ran this plot where, like, basically Troil's child had enough with Amr Sin and, like, did something like some sort of thumb thing, and he was knocked into torpor, and, like, ordered all the Brujah to go kill him. And there was this big thing in this Iowa game where all the Brujah, like, the Assamites had torpid Amr Sin, Methuselah, and all the Brujah, like, we were all ordered to go kill him. And like, we had this scene where it's like, and she's like, I'm the child of Troy, you have to do it. And she's like, Paul, you have to order the Brujah to obey me. And I was like, all right, we will do it your way. You know, like, I'm like, that's much our friends, like, they're our allies. They've done stuff for us. Like, I have friends on their team, you know, and so, like, we get ordered to go do it because of this lovers' quarrel between them, you know. And, like, Brad ran this crazy scene where it's like we're at this church, and, like, all the Brujah on one side, and, you know, basically the Assamites have the football, and we're trying to grab them, and they're retreating up this church, and, like, I, like, instantaneous into wolf form, like, jump over a bunch of them, and there's, like, the melee that happens, and there's, like, 2 or 3 of them, like, taking them up the stairs of this church cathedral and using passants to, like, smash the stairs, and I'm, like, parkouring up, like, the interior of this thing, and they've got this helicopter waiting, like, on the top to receive him, you know. And so, like, they managed to stay, like, around, you know, not like a full turn, but around ahead of me as they're going into it. And they're like, all right, they load him in the helicopter, they pull away, and, like, I make the challenge to, like, grab one of the struts. And there's Nick's PC, Mackay, who is, like, the baddest character in all of Iowa, you know, and, like, you know, he was trying to stop me. I think I break past him, grab one of the struts. He does too, and we're having, like, this sword fight while hanging off the struts. Oh, and I managed to win, and I knock him off the. I would say no. He actually knocks me off the struts, and, like, I fall, and there's a bunch of like 200-point Brujah there, and I'm like, as I land, and I'm like, guard my body. And I go astral, and the last thing I see is Nakai lands right next to my body and all the Brujah there. And I'm like, Oh man, I hope the body go back to like this is the baddest PC in all Iowa, you know. And so like I go and the helicopter is trying to get away with Amr Sin, and I'm like, all right, I manifest. I go through every social power I have, like, you know, dread gaze, you know, like command, mesmerism, you know, crazy combo powers and stuff, like to make everybody like voice of madness, demontation. They somehow beat me on every single challenge, literally every single challenge. I'm out of powers. I can do nothing. I have no traits left. And I go back, thankfully, to my body, which is still there. The Bruja like said, look, you really don't want to do this, Nikai, you know, and so I live. And then we go back to Namru, and she's like, you failed. You failed me. And I was like, how like Carthage this is. We obeyed our elders and did everything you said, and now all we have left is the ashes of a relationship with the Assamites. It is all burnt to the ground in front of us because we did what you said. And like, I'm very glad Brad won the frenzy chops to not have a fourth generation Burha kill me. But like, it was like this cool. I was there. Katie was there. I feel so bad. I don't remember what people there, but it was like all these. It was really good, but like that really framed it. And the things afterwards, like I was like, we need to damage control in our relationship and meeting with the Assamites. And like we reached out and we're like, hey, listen, we're sorry this happened, but you guys won. You guys won. We had to do what our elders say, and you guys have to do what your elders say too sometimes. We're very happy that he didn't die. We gave it our best. You gave it our best. Let's put this aside and go back to being friends. And like, it was really, really audacious, but they're like, yeah, cool. All right. And like, they were actually fine with it. Like we were that solemn. We were like, we were under strict orders. You know, it's somehow worked.
So apparently the story of the Year of Fiire is the number of times Paul Walker almost died.
I'm sure he's not the only one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So.
Oh yeah, but for Adam, I do want to know, do you have any, I assume you know how Anya was brought back, circling back.
I'm going to give you the honest answer here. I don't fucking remember, which is why I
God damn it, Adam.
He was hoping he remembered.
I think you just had her wandered back.
I think you're right. I think we went with somehow Palpatine returned is like our fucking like response, because we were like Midwinter.
I'm going to see if it's on. Continue talking. I'm going to try to see if it's on Anya's page.
I don't think it is.
Good luck. But you're gonna message Jen and be like, "Hey, do you remember how you fucking came back?"
I could.
while they're doing that, Midwinter happens, and it's the big event. And what the story is Moloch has gathered the remainders of his army to Chorazin. For those that don't know within the canon, Chorazin is the first Bali city from like the time of the Second City, ancient old vampire times. It was a huge infernal city. It's like the home base of the Bali. It's been attacked and sieged, and Bali rise up, they fall, they rise up. It's like a repeating pattern with the clan. So Moloch goes there with his army to use the Diamonian Nine that I mentioned to end the fucking world. Because again, he's, nothing left to live for. My love has died. I'm going to burn this world down. You took that away from me. And so the Sabbat, the Camarilla, all of the PCs, and Midwinter, even at that time, was the biggest one world event. I think it only was eclipsed by Nola Tube just because of the nature of, it was Grand Masquerade 2 thrown by White.
Nola,
yeah, like it's like a once in a lifetime event. But it's still a huge amount of players. And so they go in, they start organizing, and it was really cool to see the Camarilla and the Sabbat and the Independents and the Anarchs, those players working together to come out with a battle strategy. Because they had to work their way, they had to go arrive at the city, they had to then go fight all of the defenses in the remaining army and make their way to Moloch. And I remember, like, there's so many PCs that died.
It doesn't, really quick, it doesn't say on her wiki, because she does give herself credit for killing the sex worker of Babylon.
She's okay. I just remember one thing that we forgot. So, like, in the midst of all our prep for all of this, we thought, like, we see some avenues to how we can do this. We need to see if we can flip Marhabal. Because, so Marhabal, of course, was like, he was very pro-Troil. He was very much in love with Troil. He was not necessarily pro-Moloch. So, so 3 of us went to go see
gone bad.
Yeah, it was, let's see, it was my PC, it was Ambrosio, played by Ian Paxton, and it was Frank Siegler, played by,
Great.
Rest in peace, homie. Yeah. And so, like, we go to Marhabal, and, like, the scene play, I forget where he is, but, like, he's basically in a park, and this is pre-WandaVision. So, but he's got everybody, like, frozen in, like, these, like, you know, park scenes, and you could tell by their eyes that they're very conscious and not willing about this, not willingly participants in this, you know. And so, like, he's just sitting there on a park bench. We're like, hey there, buddy. We want to talk to you about Troil, you know. And he's like, Troil, and he just starts like wailing and thrashing, and then like all the people in the park start doing it too and flipping out and getting emotional. And we're like, okay, you know, we're like, listen, it's a problem, and you know, we know that like Moloch is trying to do things, and then he shrieks and loses it, and the way it's described to us in email is that Margabal accidentally psychically destroys all of you, but then he feels bad about doing it. So he psychically tries to put you back together, but the problem is he's a Malkavian, and he can't do it very well, so all of you have derangements now. Congratulations. And, like, resume the scene, and we're just like, okay, and we're like, listen, man, like, we want to save Troil and stop Moloch, so will you help us stop Moloch, you know? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And it's like, but you're gonna save Troy over Anya, though, right? You know, like Padme meme, you know. Troy, right? You know.
Yeah, dude.
So, time anyone's come along, you know, Anya just wanders back home, you know, and like comes and like, you know, Adam says, yeah, Anya just comes home one night. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I know she's really Troil, despite what she may be pretending to do. And then I was like, wait a second. Is there a romantic reunion that happens? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, so me and an antediluvian, man.
The polycule grew.
It's like a brew hoppy, like, did you fuck my mom, Paul Walker? Did you fuck Troil?
Well, I remember once I played to Roger, I was like, Roger, my character has vetted an antediluvian. And he's like, so's mine. And I'm like, who, Roger?
It was
I think we're just caught up in the agreement in the moment.
For the audience, and the clarification, Jimmy and I did not conduct ERP for this scene. We didn't do that.
If we had a compilation for every time Adam took place of another female player to flirt with a man, we'd have. We could put that in a jar. We'd have enough to fly to Kubla from fucking New York.
Yeah, probably. And now I have questions, but apparently I just enjoy playing female NPCs a lot.
Good for you.
I don't know. Actually, let me turn the lights on here a little bit.
I was going to say, insert me as Sasha Vikos at Grand Synod here, and me bitching about my boobies.
Dude, you text me, you're like, look at my boobies, and I'm going to have tits, and I was like, Adam, you need to tell people, otherwise they're going to nonstop grope you this whole. But you're like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I should tell people.
18 times, by the way.
There's a secret counter for his ass. We're getting off topic. Okay, so we rewinded. Let's unrewound.
Okay, so it's about to happen. Like the effort's kind of taking shape. I mean, it's so big. Everybody's got a part of it at this point. You know, like people are like, well, you know, like I'm talking to other people. At one point, we get a little. Terry, you know, comes back now with a few Black Hand folks, and I had this tense scene where he's like, "Hey, we're just gonna kill Anya, and then we're gonna thwart this whole apocalypse thing. We're just gonna kill Anya." And I was like, appreciate if you didn't. If you, the Black Hand, whose sworn mission is to wage war against the antediluvians, would just please, as a favor to me, not kill that antediluvian over there, I would be really, really grateful. And they're like, all right, cool, yeah, we got you. Yeah, it's fine. And I was like, listen, guys, like I talked to Marball. Marball's going to betray this guy. We got the sword. We got this other sword. There's like this secret thing too. Like, we got this. Like, we're going to charge in. We're going to just jump this guy, and that's how we're going to stop. That's how we're going to stop us. So like, all right, fine. We'll hold off on jumping on you. And we're like, thank you, guys. Like, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, as a favor to me, but so it's all shaping up, and I'm like, okay, my job is to stop Trail from going insane and killing everybody, and basically hope and convince Troy or Anya, whoever's in this body, to stab Moloch to death with that sword. I need that to happen. Amidst all of this, some people find out, they know what's up, and they immediately start poking the bear. Our friend Sovereign Prince Kelly, in fact, comes up and is like, Troy. And I'm like, her name is Anya, Kelly. Why don't you go somewhere else? And he's like, no, you're an antediluvian. And I'm like, go. Okay.
Appropriately timed.
And I think I dominated him to leave, and he just walks out in another door. And I'm like, I will fight you over this. And I think the game were like, all right, come on, man, give this guy a break, And other people, and meanwhile, I'm having these conversations with Troy, and I was like, and she's like, once I regain my full power, we will be a clan once again, As Adam has coached, Jen is doing a wonderful job with all this roleplay, because Jen is very much acting against the impulses of I'd like to save my character, with I also need to embody this role of the split personality thing, and eventually I think there's this group that comes at one point, and they're like, yeah, we want to grab Anya, and I think it was Lan Blackwood and a few others. So actually, some of the gang girl, and I was just and I'm like, oh shit, they got a lot of dudes, and Lan Blackwood definitely had a sheep. This is PJ's gang girl back in the day. PJ's chop hand is very mighty on top of that.
Yes.
So I'm like, no, we're not fighting these guys. I just throw up Shroud and Vanish and Misform out, and they're like, you guys are, they're like, we're going to tell the Herald about this. And I'm like, I used to work for the Herald. I'm on the freaking registry.
Also the world's ending.
Yeah, right. Who cares? Who cares?
Priorities.
I think after that moment, I was like, look, I don't know what to tell you. If you go and do this, you're going to be working for Moloch. You would be marrying our clan to Moloch forever. We don't want to do that. We love you. We don't love him, And then, basically the rationalization that Troll comes to is that Moloch may resurrect her as a Bali and not as a Bruja. And that's not acceptable.
That was
decides at that point, she's like, all right, we're going to go kill him together as a family, and it's and she's like, does this, Paul, go be my Hannibal. I'm like, fuck yeah, and I go, and there's the rant, and I info dump all this to everybody. And it's rough because it's I know there's at least one or two new players who's their first ever LARP,
God.
and having to deal with this, end of the world bullshit, and so I'm
imagine being a new sheet, being like, who the fuck is Troil? Where the fuck are we?
Yeah.
This is your genre, guys. I walk into a game it's demon, and so I'm like, all right, and this is now a call to arms, Obruja clan. We are mutually bound to do this. We must fight for ourselves in the world, And there was a particular PC who's like, no, I'm not going. I'm like, you risk being made an outcast for this. I was like, no, I'm not going. And I'm like, all right, cool, no selling, but your choice, and you will incur the consequences may happen. There's a couple PCs. I won't go into more detail than that because it's not fair. I'm not doing this to pick on anybody. So it's all lining up, huh?
That's the next video where we just pick
Fuck
on
off,
people.
Adam.
That's so like that's the Patreon or whatever, Well,
The Patreon that we don't have. Back
once
to
we
Patreon.
get sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
Shut the fuck up, Adam. I can't.
I'm leaning into the bit.
I hate you.
Like, so I know basically like everybody splits into groups, and I'm like, I've talked to the other people like that. So let's see, I just bought Inspire Greatness at the time.
Oh yes.
And so like I didn't have greater Inspire Greatness because George, who was the Brewhawk Horde, his PC had greater Inspire Greatness. He didn't want anybody else to have greater Inspire Greatness, so he wouldn't let me buy greater Inspire Greatness. So I was able to give all the PCs Passance and Aegis, but like I had to go through a giant ton of blood like in order to do it. Like it was just stupid. Imagine. Yeah, and so like I do that for every PC in the fight, and other PCs are doing the Tremere doing prep, like this. I think Elias Beecher at this point. Yeah, Beecher's not on the outs yet. Beecher's still like good guy Beecher.
Is he still considered a part of the house in the Tremere? That's
society, but he didn't go loud. He wasn't loud at that point.
Well, yeah. So I think this is actually how we got the Archon gig to Strek later on. Is because like he helped out with a lot of the team buffing. Plus, like he got the Eye of Hazamel, like at the Nova before, thanks to somebody,
He really
not being named, just to somebody.
Dude, all right. So like, everybody's doing stuff at this point. The Knots are doing stuff, like we split into groups, and for this one, I was like, I was like, all right, this does not need to be the me show. So, there's like a bunch of groups, and I'm like, okay, we just need to get one of the, we got the Mahabal Trail lined up. We just need to get one of the two potential weapons, and keep in mind, Ridgely is still a secret. I haven't told anybody about Ridgely. Nobody knows. And I'm like, everybody just have to get Troil to the end. And so I'm in a group, and I was like, hey, my priority has to be making sure that Anya's okay. And I was like, who needs to lead this group? Tommy Truelove. And so he was the captain of our squad. And I was like, Tommy, you fucking got this. And he's like, no. I was like, you got this, Tommy. Like, you were made to fucking do this. Like, have this be your moment.
Number one.
Yeah. And so like, the STs first, they do some silliness where it's like, all right, all your magical fetish items stop working. I'm like, great. I freaking hate magic items in this game. I think they're awful for it. And everyone's like, everybody get your magic items out. Okay, great, here they are. And then like Adam and Chris Clackering are just like, thanks. I think they later like set fire to them in a dumpster and like videoed it.
It was straight outside on the sidewalk outside of the event.
We just made one case, like best moment in history.
To my own credit, when we did it, it was after game, and I was really drunk.
I'd imagine.
It was still good. And there was a bit of a Worf effect moment before anybody went in, because like Patrick and Theo Bell both came running out in a fear frenzy, and I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Well, total Worf effect, And so they all go in, and it was like a storyteller had each one of 3 pods, and the pods were like 30 plus people, and they ran like kind of a B thing if you weren't about that life, like with your sheet. And that was okay. I think that was a great idea, because like this game is about fun and RP, and these combat dungeon crawl things can actually get like super freaking tense, so it was rough.
Also, there's a lot of people there, and it's hard to balance all that.
Yeah.
Jimmy's right. Each pod was effectively the size of a game. Like,
wow.
Yeah, it was that big. And mine was run by my good friend Nate, and Nate is not nice to his friends when he's an ST at all. He was rough. And so we had to fight off these insane things. And then, like, we eventually got released to a main area where we got, kind of consolidated. But, like, the storytellers were playing these rolling characters, or like rolling NPCs where you would just get jumped. like in the main area. And and so like I see Ridgely at her PC, and she's made it, and she's got the sword, and like I'm like, all right, great. I'm like, get in with our group, like it's fine. And she's like, no, I don't want to join your group. And I'm like, you really should join our group, and she kept on wanting to wander off and be on her own. And her PC was a broodmate of, I think, Kenny Wellhead Adventure at the time. And so, like, and he's like, well, I'm not going to let my...
That's right. He was Adrian Florent, and she was the...
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Adrian.
And so, like, and I'm watching this, and he's like, I know these are the two weapons that can kill Moloch. And one of them's going that way, one of them's going that way. And that was Anya. And I got to stick with Anya. And so, like, I watch as she goes off on her own, and then Adrian Florent's with her, and I see the STs go up, and they just mark her character, like she's just straight up dead. And eventually,
one of your keys to the kingdom gone.
Yeah, and so like what this is like the stuff that nobody knows, by the way, as to how this went down, and it'll segue into the more commonly understanding of how that went. But like, so we were like, all right, we've gone through the stuff. You're in the queue to fight the end boss. We're going to do it, And different people are trying to fighting and going in. We're like, all right, well, we need to get the football here to the end zone and stab Moloch. And a Monorball comes up and does a thing. I think betrays, like basically knocks off like a whole boss phase from the combat. And I think because there's the story that people tell. I know that the PC was a Malkavian based in Peoria, who also happened to have Humanity 5, who just finds the sword lying there, picks it up, and like basically stabs Moloch to death with it. And
cool.
That PC got the credit for the kill shot. I remember. I wish I remembered the player of the PC name. I feel so bad. I'm sure it's on the wiki. Please take a bow in the comments for this. Incidentally, Rand Blackwood was later engaged to that PC and had this whole event with this crazy wedding that what's his name? That was totally other story after this, but really freaking cool. But like, so that was it. So Moloch gets stabbed to death, by the sword, and it's like it's over. But then, as we think it's over, everyone hears the voice of like Marhabal, who specifically condemns my PC. And it's like, if this ain't over, I'm gonna get eaten. and that's it. That's how it ends.
Yeah. So, in particular, happens that it's kind of like cinematic occurs, right? So Troy was released.
Really quick, was the name Juliana Cronin Ward Blackwood?
Yes, that's her. Yeah, absolutely.
Holy shit!
That was the one who picked up the sword, and nobody ever knew how it got there. It was all thanks to originally in her PC.
Yep. So what ends up happening is Troy is released from Anya, and so everyone gets to see Troy. And convinces, because Moloch's a fucking 4th generation Bali. Death means nothing to him. He can just he's gonna come back. And they have this really sincere moment, and I'm coaching Jen through it. That, hey man, I'm dead, and I did love you. Let's just go. And their souls go off into the ether of whatever the afterlife is in the world of darkness, and that's how the story ends. As I said at the beginning of this whole story, it's a love story. That's what the whole year was. And I couldn't plan all of the various PC interactions that ended up being various love stories that happened in it. It was just like a magic moment where all of those things just happened to perfectly line up. But yeah, that was how it ended. That was to this day it has the ramifications and impacts. We didn't even get to the part where we covered that during the month of Rage. At the beginning of this, the Bruja have this huge problem where they start developing Temporis randomly, and that's why Temporis is all across the org, right? And so there's a whole huge civil war that almost happens in the Bruja because they're like, who the hell are these freaks, and why do you have that? And so
we're largely cool.
Yeah, but at first they were tainted. There was a lot of that, which was a cool vibe to see. instead of it just being immediately accepted. I'm glad that there was some part
Oh
of it
yeah,
from
that's
the
good.
Brujah players that were like, I don't, this is suspect, and we have questions. But that's why now Temporis is all over the org. Originally, when we had done that, we had discussed, we're going to release Temporis. It's in a book. Fuck it, let's use it. It's a printed thing, and it was supposed to be just for Brujah. We agreed at the time that like this is the Brujah special thing from this plot. Nobody outside of the Brujah is going to get this. Fast forward 15 years, nobody remembers that except like fucking me. And so Temporis is, much more widespread in the org as a result. Anyone that's a blood sorcerer that wants to be amazing at blood sorcery now is fucking Temporis instead of Celerity because 5 thumb actions around. But that's the origin of Temporis in the org, and its original intent was supposed to stay in the Brujah clan as like its special thing, and kind of like the memorial to this plot, that it was this struggle and rebirth of the Brujah clan. And the real tragic part of this is after this plot ends, the Brujah players, the prominent, like big Brujah players, they've come to the national scene, they've been to the forefront. Within a couple of years, they're all dead,
Hmm.
and the
It
clan
was,
never recovers to
It's
this
popping
day.
one,
up soon.
yeah.
And like that's very, very World of Darkness, right? Like that's the hero's journey and fall, like the tragedy of Clan Bruja.
Honestly, still, the ramifications of this plot are absolutely crazy on how they ripple throughout the org. The Temporis thing we mentioned, the Brujas' prominence and their relationship with Troil and these demons are still relevant to this very day. These almost like old wives' tales of like 15 years from this event have been passed on to like we're at the point where younger Bruja no idea what the fuck any of this is. And when we touch on some of these old points, when, for example, when Jimmy came back in Blood Knights very briefly to reemphasize a little bit of this story, a lot of new players were reintroduced to this, and a lot of old players were like, "Oh fuck, we're here again, flashbacks."
Yeah.
and now and now we're here with the Treaty of Fire, and it's vastly outgrown its roots, with infernalism being banned or at least lessened to a very large extent in the org. The old roots of this story are essentially wilted, but still existent. One of the beauties of a big story in a game like Wormhole by Night is that even if the exact wording isn't there, the echoes are. Whether it be from older players who are like, "Hey, if that's a Neo-Carthaginian, we need to kill it." And a newer player going, "What's a Neo-Carthaginian?" And they go, let's sit down, buddy. To like, yeah, I got Temporis way back in the day from one of the new Bruja who came in to the relationships and political destruction, to the Bruja and Assamites relationship. That has been completely stellar since the time, or at least they've had like bumps and roads, but I'd say the Year of Fire had a big portion of it, to the Venture's contribution to the Nkanu. So many small little things that at the time were consequential to what everyone thought was just the plot soon became growing trees that now exist within our org, and it's one of the beauties of being in it.
Yeah, it fed into other things that, like, that's how Elias Beecher got made Archon, and then he had his rise and fall, and then became the big boogeyman, and it's like there are people that don't even remember him now, but there's lots of probably him going nuts with infernalism definitely fed into the let's get rid of infernalism, I would say.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. I'll say this, that as the guy that like was one of the main focus and helped running it, I was at most of these events. I was help coordinating it. I was help running and telling these stories. At the time, especially in One World by Night, there was no code of conduct or things along those lines. That there was a lot of heat I had to take to run this. Like there were people that were very upset about it. Generally because like they weren't as involved. They had their own opinions. People general there's always a small group of people that don't like a change to the status quo, and we were shaking things up because we wanted the story to be exciting.
Yes.
But that being said, and I always say this, and like I always weathered that storm, is that like if you look at any metric in regards to the Year of Fire, player engagement, player attendance, all of these things that you should measure if a plot was successful or not, they've never been higher in One Roll by Night. It was during the Year of Fire. The amount of people role playing with each other, our attendance grew up, went up. Our, events were huge. These things happened. So, I think it was, in the end of the day, it was a great. I look back on it very fondly. It was one of the best times of my life. I had just met Joan. We were just,
Aw.
dating. I became friends with Jimmy because of this. A lot of people I'm friends with is because of that time that I met in One Roll. And I would
Ironically,
say,
we're actually friends because of it,
yeah,
in one way or another. Where I first introduced myself to Adam by asking him about the Treaty of Fire as a
yep,
player that had only been in the org for a year. And I also want to note these are only two cosms of the story. If you are a newer player and this fascinates you and this story motivates you and you're really into it, find your local older player and ask them about the Treaty of Fire. Ask them about their involvement. Ask them about their experience. You're going to get an array of answers, and all of them are small puzzle pieces that make a bigger image. And eventually, one day, you too will be a part of your own Year of Fire plot. And I hope you remember this story and how fucking cool it is.
yeah. That's good advice, because 20-year-old Adam didn't fucking take notes about any of this or write it down. So
Point
this is
laugh. Everyone point laugh at Adam.
So this is all oral history. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video. We got a huge request on it. Is that people were having a hard time getting information. It wasn't just you. It was a bunch of people that were like,
I've been thinking about this
Can someone
for
tell
like
me the
years.
story? And I was like, if you can get in my head, yes. I'm
Lot-
all up here.
Lots of us still have the emails. Like I still have these emails. I think every so often like I'll look for them. I'd say Katie Grace. By the way, I should give. She was involved in so much of this, her PC Lena, and I feel bad I didn't was not able to weave her into more of this, but like Katie's PC was around for all this. Katie's a fantastic memory for all this, and like every time I've talked to her about it, she'll remind me of stuff that like I've forgotten too. So like there's so many different nuances. Let's see, I know Slash was around, Dean Famiora was around,
Flash is around, Dean is also around. Was Oliver Frey a part of this?
Was who?
Oliver Frey?
Yeah, of course. That's Bill Genish's PC. Yeah, Oliver was around for all of this too. Like, and Bill has all those emails. Like, I couldn't find like some of the old stuff that I had written, and like I just messaged. He sent to me like 30 seconds. Like he's phenomenal. I'm sorry, William. Now it was to be fair, but yeah, Oliver Frey was definitely around. And it was huge. I mean, it really was the high water mark for the org. Without a doubt, and possibly for LARPing. You saw how you heard how big of an attendance it was at New Orleans. So I think there's from my perspective, there's still plenty of stories left to be told. Like if this, I'd say, if this calls to people, playing now, like I don't think One World by Night should necessarily be like a death cult of like ages past and how great it used to be. Like do the next, do the next one of these. Like have the next like cool story. Yeah, exactly.
Lean into what we're good at, right?
Right.
Like, what makes us unique as an org.
I know it's very tempting to think, especially as a newer player, that these big plots are very untouchable and they're hard to reach. And the truth is that if you think they're untouchable and you can't touch them, start at the local level. This game, one of the wonders of it is that you do not need a big sheet to get involved. You can be interesting, you can be fun, you can be collaborative. Everyone will find their niche eventually, whether it be knocking heads in or doing Overwatch or maybe even sweet talking an NPC. It's really up to you. So do what you want and have fun. It's what this game's all about. That's why we're here.
I should also say, like, if you're in a position where you do have the opportunity to like get something cool, like bring people along. Like, don't just isolate this to you and your friends. Like, find somebody new. Find like a designated couple new people. I brought Katie's PC around because she was a newer PC, and I'm like, it's not fun if it's just me doing this stuff all the time. Like, I brought her along. I brought Ambrosio along. I brought Slash when he was free. I think he was out in Iowa that crazy night with Amerson versus Namru and all that. Yeah, and there were a bunch of others that were like there and did stuff along the way, like and certainly influenced the story. Certainly, certainly shaped the outcomes. I mean, we told this in what, like 2 hours, but like the politics of, do we accept the changed, as they were called, the Bruhala Temporis, at the time, was like just pages and pages of debates on the rant list. What to do next? Is it, should it be Anya? Do we save Anya or do we save Troil? Like all of that was huge. People's views on this things like shape the politics of local games, and determine who's going to be Prince and who's Primogen. So like, I think some of the hesitation to do another one of these big things, it's probably like twofold. First, they know it's a big lift, and it's like you kind of need to rest, after doing something like that. It's a big world-threatening event. You can't really do the fate of the world like every year. It gets super old, But I think it's easy to think that plot will be concentrated among like a select group of people. I think that you need to address that by first writing it in a way that it's hard to do that. Like, I wasn't involved in everything. Like, it took place in events all through. I didn't go to the Conclave. I didn't go to Atlanta when it happened. Like a multi-geographic approach. There was something in Cuba I didn't go to that mattered. Like, I think that's a big part of it. And honestly, I could scarcely afford to go to like the 3 or 4 events that I did, travel where I might. But like, I think I'll also say, I don't know that I haven't heard of another org doing a plot of this size this well, of any of the other vampire orgs that are still around and those that have kind of come and gone. I think One World by Night actually is perhaps the best at doing this, and very likely, is probably the largest vampire org right now. So if there's appetite for doing it again, I think it should be considered.
You heard it here from Jimmy first. Year of Ice.
Oh, dear. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to all of us. If there's any, before I outro, is there anything last y'all would like to say?
No, I just want to give a huge thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for doing this, man. I could not remember that other half because I'm not a player in it. I just ran it. So thank you
so much for being here.
Yeah, no, it's just fun. Thanks to Jen also.
Events?
Oh yeah, well I'll do it. But first, thanks to Jen also. I mean, her PC was on the line throughout all of this, and she was just a total champ about this. I hope she watches at some point. As to plug events, I don't know. I mean, like I'm a creative director at By Night Studios now, so I write the rules that this org refuses to adopt.
We're getting controversial.
I know, it's so like we'll never change, like we're 2 editions past like the 1999 book, but no, it's fine. So I also run Darkness Emergent as part of By Night Studios. We just had one in Atlanta, which is really cool. Our next one's in LA, Memorial Day weekend. I keep scheduling those against One World events somehow. Like I want to actually go to Grand Synod to see what Adam had cooking up, but I scheduled mine first. Adam, you can't even be mad at me. But I go to One World events when I can. I'm meeting Blood Ice this year. I probably should register if I'm going to. It's pretty close, right?
Yeah.
It is. I'll see you at Blood Ice.
Yeah.
All right, let me see what I can do.
That's a good shout out point too. Blood Ice is coming up. Definitely check that event out. Go there if you can.
Do register. I think a lot of the hotels booked up, but there's still outfitting events. I think there's a server for it on Discord that we also can link below. If you want to get involved, if you're motivated to get involved. I'd love to see you there.
You were so hyped after this episode.
I'm so happy. We finally get to talk about this. There were so many good details I couldn't find on the Cat Wiki. I've been doing viewer context. I've been thinking about this plot for 2 years. That's since I joined, when I first heard about it, because I was like an embryo. I was like 10 during this experience. So finally getting like a full detail is like a dream come true. I could cry right now.
So I want to be noted, it's wild to me that it's been 15 years. Jimmy looks exactly the goddamn same, and I've got fucking gray hair.
Old man.
But I kind of do.
Right. Either way, thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.
You got to do the full thing. You got to.
Oh no!
You missed the entire outro.
No, you can do it. I don't care.
All right, don't forget, if you like this video, comment down below. Hit the
Oh
like,
no,
hit
not
the
this
bell icon
shit.
for the
No, I
notifications so
forgot.
that we get sponsored
I had
by
lived in a
Rage
blissful world where you weren't
Legends.
fucking pluck.
All right, thanks for
And
watching. Bye, everyone.